Today marked Governor Maura Healey's first full day in office. She addressed plans for the long-discussed East-West Rail. And Western Mass News reporter Lexi Oliver joining us live in studio tonight with more on that. Lexi.
Chris, it's a story we've been following for years. State legislators really pushing for that East-West Rail to be developed. And today, Governor Healey announced she'll be appointing someone to spearhead that project.
I'm just so thrilled that she's following through on her campaign promise to make passenger West-East rail service a reality.
Positive reaction from legislators after Governor Maura Healey addressed plans for the East-West Rail during her first press conference since taking office.
We can't have economic growth through our entire Commonwealth if we have slow transportation systems.
State Senator Jake Oliveira says the rail, which will directly connect Pittsfield to Springfield to Boston, will be essential to the future development of our state.
As someone who drives to Boston on a regular basis, the Massachusetts Turnpike, just from Ludlow, my hometown itself, to get into Boston, can be over 2.5 hours in the morning. And it's a very, very, very time-consuming, but also stressful commute.
Friday, Governor Healey promising to appoint a director to oversee development of the rail.
Obviously, it's going to be somebody who has capacity for leadership, management, understanding of the economy, understanding of transportation, and the role of transit in that, and can be effective at delivering on time and with results.
Back in August, then Governor Charlie Baker signed an infrastructure bond bill that included $275 million towards development of the rail. And Oliveira tells Western Mass News the time is now.
State revenues are up right now. We have increased funding that's going to be generated through the passage of the Fair Share Amendment that the voters voted on this past November. But also, we have significant federal infrastructure dollars that are coming to Western Massachusetts. This is a perfect infrastructure project that will create jobs in Western Massachusetts.
Right now, the Western Massachusetts Passenger Rail Commission, created last summer, is working to come up with a plan of how to develop the rail. And Oliveira is looking forward to the next steps.
So the timeline right now is making sure that we receive the report from the commission that's meeting right now, and then taking those recommendations and turning it into a plan of action to get passenger rail service through West-East Rail here as soon as possible.
And when asked if that new director would be from Western Mass, Governor Healey said, "We'll see." Reporting live in studio, Lexi Oliver, Western Mass News.